This pizzeria takes in $800,000 a year. Every dollar of it passes through the man standing outside. Of that $800,000, he keeps $58,000. Not the business. Him. The person who unlocks the door. 7 cents of every dollar. That is what the owner of a healthy, independent pizzeria pulls out in a year. A large cheese pizza costs about $2.70 in ingredients and sells for nearly 16% food cost. So where does the money go? Not into the pizza. The pizza is the cheapest thing in this entire building. $49,000 a year leaves this shop and goes to delivery apps. That is almost what the owner keeps. The apps own no oven, pay no rent here, pour no dough. They earn 85 cents for every dollar he does. He works 65 hours a week. His head cook works 40 and takes home more per hour than he does. This is not a story about a failing restaurant. This one works. It is full most nights. The math is just brutal. Here's exactly where $800,000 goes, line by line, until $58,000 is all that is left. You have heard that 90% of restaurants fail in the first year. That number is repeated everywhere, and it is wrong. A research firm tracked more than 1,000 newly opened pizza shops. Exactly 2 of them closed inside their first 12 months. Pizzerias are the most durable format in the restaurant industry. Cheap ingredients, simple equipment, and a product nobody gets tired of. So they do not die in year 1. They die in year 3, and in year 5, and they die very quietly. Year 3 is when the opening lease steps up. The landlord who wanted a tenant now wants full market rent. Year 5 is when the oven needs parts. The walk-in compressor goes and the hood has not been cleaned in months. In a recent year, only 42% of American restaurants turned any profit at all, less than half. 9 in 10 operators said their labor cost went up that year. 9 in 10 said exactly the same about food. Nothing dramatic happens. Sales stay flat. Costs climb 4 points, and one morning the owner does not want to unlock the door. That is the real failure mode. Not a crash. A slow squeeze from both ends until nothing at all is left. Start with the product itself. A large cheese pizza. Wholesale prices, the kind of small shop actually pays its distributor. Dough, flour, water, yeast, salt, and oil, made in-house. 55 cents of ingredients for a 14-inch crust. Sauce, crushed tomatoes out of a case, plus oregano and salt. 42 cents spread across the whole pizza. Cheese, 7 ounces of low-moisture whole. Milk mozzarella, about $1.40, and this is the line that moves. The corrugated box, 35 cents. Nobody thinks about it until you realize the shop buys 25,000 of them. Add it up. $2.72 of material walks out the door as one large cheese pizza. The national average price for that pizza is $16.92. In some Western markets, it clears 20. 16% food cost in a business where 28 is normal and 35 is a crisis. Pizza looks unbeatable. Except this shop runs a 28.5% food cost across the year. 12 points worse than the pizza. Those 12 points are toppings, wings, a cook who is generous with cheese, dough that proved too long, and coupons. A 30% off coupon does not cut profit by 30%. It takes food costs from 16 to 23. Now the top line. $800,000 does not arrive as one number. It arrives through 4 completely different doors. Dine-in 40 seats, mostly Friday and Saturday. $232,000 a year, 29% of sales. Carry-out ordered directly, phone, walk-in, the shop website, $288,000, the biggest single channel here. Delivery run by his own driver, ordered directly, $104,000, 13%, and shrinking every single year. Delivery ordered through third-party apps, $176,000, 22% of everything this shop sells. Industry surveys put the typical app share around 12%. This shop is well past that and he did not choose it. Customers chose it. They opened the app first and the restaurant second. Refusing the platform means being invisible to the neighborhood. 84% of pizzerias now report online sales, averaging around 27% of their total. The phone is dying. 4 channels, 1 kitchen, 1 oven, 1 crew. Every pizza is made the same way, whatever door the order came through. But what the shop keeps from each of those $4 is not remotely the same. That is the whole episode. Take a single order, 2 large pizzas, a side, 2 drinks, the same food, made by the same person, 4 different ways. Ordered as carryout, that basket rings up at $33. He passes it over the counter, and it is done. Card processing takes 92 cents. Ingredients take $9.41. Packaging 85 cents. Kitchen labor $6.60. $15.22 left over. That is what carryout contributes before rent, power, insurance, and everything else. Charge that order its fair share of the fixed costs, about $8.25, and roughly $7 is real profit. Now dine in, same food, same price, but a server, a busser plates glasses, a dishwasher, and heated square footage. Dine-in carries the highest labor and the highest occupancy load. It also sells drinks at 80% margin, which saves it. His own delivery, he pays a driver, insures a car, reimburses mileage, $12,000 a year for that channel alone. In exchange, he keeps the customer, the phone number, the address, and the full ticket. Tight economics, but they are his. Then there's the fourth door, the one bringing in $176,000 and keeping this shop stuck. That order is the same 2 pizzas, same oven, same cook, same 11 minutes. Watch what happens to the money. On the app, the basket is $38, not $33. He raised app prices about 15% just to survive. The major platforms sell tiers. 15% commission for near invisibility, 25% for reach, 30% for real placement in the app. Even a pickup order, where the customer drives over and collects it himself, carries a 6% cut on some platforms. He is on the middle tier, 25% of every app order on $38. That is $9.50. $9.50, gone before a single ounce of cheese has been weighed out onto the dough. Ingredients on that order cost $10.83, because the food cost follows the marked up price. Packaging 85 cents. Kitchen labor $7.60. Add the commission and the ingredients and the box, and $9.22 is left. That order still owes $9.50 toward rent, power, insurance, software, and the loan. It brought back $9.22. 28 cents in the hole. The oven ran, the cook worked, the customer was happy, and the shop lost money. 28 cents sounds like nothing. Multiply by 4,500 app orders a year, and it stops being nothing. And 25% is the sticker rate. Once promotions, refunds, and subsidized delivery are counted, real cost lands near 35. Across the year, the platforms take $49,000 out of this shop. Commission, promoted placement, refunded orders, adjustments. The owner keeps $58,000. The apps take $49,000. They earn 85 cents for every dollar that he earns. So drop them. Except 22% of sales walks out with them, and the rent does not shrink to match. Losing $176,000 in sales to save $49,000 in fees leaves him $100,000 worse off. That is the trap. Not that the apps are expensive, that the shop cannot afford them and cannot afford to leave them. Everything so far assumed the rent. So go back to the beginning, to a man walking an empty space with a realtor. This shop pays $68,000 a year for rent, common area charges and property tax, $5,700 a month. That is 8.5% of sales. The industry rule says keep total occupancy between 6 and 10%. Cross 10% and the lease starts eating the business. Not slowly, it becomes why the shop cannot survive a bad quarter. Here's the cruelty of that rule. He signed the lease before he knew his sales. The guest was permanent. Rent is the one number he can never negotiate again while the doors are open. Everything else bends. Rent does not. A pizzeria needs foot traffic, parking for pickup, room for a driver to idle, and gas service heavy enough for an oven. Those 4 requirements do not overlap very often. When they do, the landlord knows exactly what the space is worth. Corner units near apartments run high because delivery density is high. Cheap industrial space is cheap because nobody walks past it. He took a middle spot in a strip center. Adequate everything, exceptional, nothing, and a lease that runs another 6 years. Opening this shop cost $275,000. That is the typical figure for an independent build in this market. The range runs from $100,000 for a takeout counter to $500,000 for a full dining room from scratch. The single largest line is not the oven. It is turning a raw commercial shell into a kitchen that can pass inspection. Build out on empty retail space runs $150,000 to $350,000. Plumbing, gas, electrical, floors, restrooms. Take a space that was already a restaurant and that number drops to $50,000 or $150,000, half the price. The hood is already there. The grease trap is already there. The 3-compartment sink and the heavy electrical are already there. Second-generation space is the biggest lever a first-time owner has. It can save $100,000 in one signature. Kitchen equipment beyond the oven runs about $40,000. Walk-in cooler, prep line, mixer, refrigeration, sinks, racks, small wares. Point of sale and the software behind it, $2,000 to $7,000 up front, and then a subscription forever after that. 40 seats worth of tables, booths, lighting, and decor runs anywhere from $15,000 up to $75,000. And then working capital. 3 to 6 months of payroll and rent sitting in the account before the first pizza sells. Every other decision in a pizzeria bends around one object: The oven sets the menu, the throughput, and the ceiling on sales. A gas deck oven runs $8,000 to $25,000. Stone floor, radiant heat, the format most independents end up choosing. A deck oven needs a person. Someone watches, turns, judges the color. That person is expensive and very hard to replace. A conveyor oven runs $15,000 to $40,000. The pizza goes in one end and comes out cooked identically every time. A conveyor lets him hire a teenager instead of a pizzaiolo. It also caps how good the product can ever be. A wood-fired oven runs $10,000 to $45,000 and far more once all the building work is included. Wood-fired cooks a pizza in 90 seconds and cannot cook anything else. No wings, no baked pasta, no reheating a slice. That single constraint removes half the menu and most of the lunch business. Beautiful pizza, narrow shop, permanently thin margins. He chose a double-stack gas deck, boring, repairable, and it will still be running when the lease finally ends. The oven is also why the utility bill is $34,000 a year. It burns gas from open to close. Almost nobody writes a check for $275,000. So the question becomes whose money is actually at risk. The government-backed small business loan is the standard route, 10 years, a personal guarantee, and his house on the paperwork. Personal guarantee means the business failing does not end it. The debt follows him home and keeps on asking for payment. This shop pays about $10,000 a year in interest alone. That is real money leaving before anyone counts profit. Equipment financing covers the oven and refrigeration separately because a bank can repossess an oven and cannot repossess a floor. A landlord may contribute $20 to $50 per square foot toward the build-out to land a long-term tenant. That contribution is not a gift. It is baked into a higher rent for 10 years, which is a very expensive loan. The worst structure is a friend or a relative. It works until month 9, when the shop cannot pay anyone back. However he funds it, the rule holds. Thin shops do not fail from bad pizza, they fail from running out of runway. Before any of that, the building has to be allowed to exist as a restaurant. That is a stack of permits. The exhaust hood over the oven costs $15,000 to $40,000 installed, with fans, ductwork, and fire suppression built in. It is not optional, and it is not negotiable. No hood means no certificate, no inspection, no opening, and no business. The grease trap adds $2,000 to $5,000 more, and the city cares intensely about whether it is serviced on schedule. Hood cleaning is a recurring cost, quarterly, done by a licensed crew, and the insurance company will ask to see the receipts. Repairs, maintenance, hood service, and oven parts total $16,000 a year in this shop. That is a full-time expense. Then come health permits, fire inspection, food handler certificates, a sign permit, and a business license that renews every year. Licenses, inspections, accounting, and legal work run $11,000 a year once the shop is open and operating normally. None of this makes a pizza better. All of it is paid before a pizza is legally allowed to be sold. Now the menu. This is where owners lose money without ever noticing, because every mistake here is invisible on the shelf. A pizza carries a 16% food cost. Wings carry 40, salads carry 35, and then spoil in 4 days. Every item added to the menu adds inventory prep, storage space, and a new way to waste product on a slow Tuesday. The discipline is brutal and almost nobody has it. Small menu, high volume per item, nothing that sits in the cooler. Drinks are the exception. Fountain soda costs about 30 cents and sells for $3. The best line on the menu. Which is why Dine In, the channel with the worst labor costs, survives. People sitting down order drinks. App customers do not. Pricing is where the app problem bites again. He runs 2 menus, one in the shop and one 15% higher online. Customers notice, they compare, and they feel cheated. And some of them stop ordering entirely rather than pay the difference. Not raising app prices means eating the commission. Raising them means eating the customer resentment. There is no third option here. Coupons are the other trap. A discount is not marketing if the customer was ordering anyway. It is just a price cut. Marketing coupons and the online ordering platform cost $22,000 a year. Most of it is defensive, not offensive. Labor. $226,000 a year in wages, payroll taxes, and workers' compensation before the owner pays himself. That is 28% of sales going to people who are not the owner, the largest number in the business. A pizzeria needs 3 jobs covered at once: somebody on the oven, somebody at the counter, and somebody answering the phone. At 6 on a Friday, all 3 are full-time jobs. On a slow Tuesday, they are one person standing alone. Scheduling is the entire game. Overstaff a slow shift and the profit for the day is gone before the rush even starts. Understaff a busy one and orders come out late. The app rating drops and the platform quietly buries the shop in search. The head pizza cook is the most valuable person in the building and the easiest to lose to a shop nearby. which is why the owner works 65 hours. He is not being heroic. He is the cheapest labor available to himself. He pays himself $42,000 a year as salary, less than his own kitchen manager would cost him to hire. Every hour he works is an hour he does not pay for. That subsidy is invisible and absolutely enormous. Hire somebody to honestly replace those hours, and the $58,000 he keeps drops down to almost nothing at all. Food and beverage cost $228,000 this year. Cheese is the largest single item inside that number. This shop goes through roughly 200 pounds of mozzarella every week, 10,400 pounds across the year. Cheese prices are set daily on a commodity exchange. Nobody at the shop has any influence over that number at all. In one recent year, the block market peaked near $1.89 and bottomed near $1.64 within weeks. A 75-cent swing per pound moves $7,800 through this shop, half the annual net profit from weather. Hot summers cut milk production, export demand shifts, a dairy plant goes offline. None of it is visible from behind the counter. Smart operators buy block cheese and grind it themselves. Pre-shredded costs more per pound and carries anti-caking starch. Others sign a cost-plus contract. They pay the exchange price plus a fixed number of cents, so the markup is honest. Nobody can hedge the whole exposure. A pizzeria is a business that sells a commodity it cannot control the price of, which is why menu prices lag the market by months and why margin quietly disappears in the years when cheese runs hot. Opening day, everything is built, permitted, staffed, and stocked, and none of it has ever been tested at the same time. The soft opening exists for exactly one reason: to find out what breaks when 20 orders arrive in 9 minutes. Usually it is the oven timing. A crew that has never worked a rush cannot judge when a pizza is actually done. Sometimes it is the phone. One line, one person, and 40 callers who all hang up and order somewhere else instead. Opening week sales mean nothing. Everyone in the neighborhood tries a new pizzeria once. The real number arrives in month 4. The worst opening mistake is discounting hard to build traffic. It builds traffic that only exists while the discount does. The second worst is a menu that is too large because opening week is exactly when a crew cannot execute any complexity. The app listing goes live and the first ratings arrive. 3 of them. All about a late delivery he did not drive. Those ratings will follow the shop for years, and there's almost nothing that he can do about any of them. The first 90 days decide the shop, not because sales settle, but because habits form and habits become the cost structure. Portion control is set in the first month. If a cook puts 9 ounces of cheese on a pizza, that is permanent. 1 extra ounce per pizza across a year is roughly $4,000. Nobody sees it. It never appears anywhere at all. Waste tracking starts now or never. Dough that overproofed, a wrong order, a pizza dropped on the floor, all of it uncounted. Weekly numbers, not monthly. A month is long enough for a 4-point food cost problem to cost real money unnoticed. Prime cost is the number that matters. Food plus all labor. In this shop, it is 65% of sales. The old rule said keep prime cost under 60. That rule now describes the best quarter of the industry, not the average. Above 65, and there's nothing left for rent, power, and insurance. That is the line between working and closing. 90 days in, he knows his true channel mix, and it is more app-heavy than any plan he wrote down. From that point forward, the business is not being built anymore. It is only being defended 1 quarter at a time. So what does he do with a shop that works, pays him $58,000, and consumes 65 hours every week? Option 1. Open a second location. Volume buys better cheese pricing, better app terms, and a manager he can finally afford. It also doubles the risk on a personal guarantee and means neither shop has an owner standing in it every single night. Option 2. Push direct ordering hard. Every point moved off the apps and onto his own website is nearly pure profit. Shifting 5 points of sales from platform to direct is worth around $18,000, more than his entire annual profit. Option 3. Sell it. Small pizzerias trade on owner earnings, and $58,000 does not buy a comfortable retirement. The buyer is almost always another operator who will also work 65 hours, because that is the only way it works.
$800,000 a year, $58,000 kept, and the delivery apps owning nothing at all took $49,000.